Who do you consider the best U.S. men's national team player of all time?
It's a tough
swing for it.
That's a tough question to answer.
Tough because Clint's sitting here?
No, not because Clint's sitting here. Because that wouldn't be my answer.
So who's your Mount Rushmore then?
Top 5? 4? Mount Rushmore is 4?
You know,
I should know that.
Or in your mind, who you've played, who you've coached.
Well, I know Landon and Christian would be in there.
Damn, I didn't even make top 4? Shit.
I just named 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I read between the lines.
You can't read between the lines. I saw your college transcript. I know you can't read. You can't read between the lines.
Hey, you ain't lying. I almost did fell out.
Violation. Oh, you thought I was done? Oh my God. No. Oh my God. Gotta face it, I'm the one. Want the check, give me my respect, my respect, my respect, medals on my neck, on my neck, on my neck, tell them I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. What they talking about?
All right, everybody, new edition of Kicking It, this time with a legendary name in the world of U.S. soccer, the former U.S. men's national team manager, D.C. United manager, L.A. Galaxy, New York Red Bulls, the Revs as well. It is so good to have you with us, Bruce Arena. Good to see you.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
You've coached all 3 of these, obviously. Do you have a favorite son sitting on the sofa?
I think it would have to be Clint.
Yeah, right. Let me get my drink.
Because
I didn't get my drink for this.
Clint may have spoken 3 words to me in the years we were together. He was pretty reserved.
We gotta settle this beef right here for Clint.
It's no beef.
He's
not a beef, maybe, but you have on the show. You have mentioned a couple of times feeling some kind of a way.
Yeah.
About certain things that transpired.
Yeah.
Not responding to text messages because of that. Were you aware that he felt some kind of a way towards you, Bruce?
A little bit, but you know, all players are different. You know, there's different conflicts going on all the time, and as a coach, you kind of have to keep a level head. But I don't know why we would have anything that indifferences with each other. But Clint was a great player. A little bit different than a lot of the players, but when he stepped on the field, he was all business. He was a competitor. He was a bastard on the field. Am I allowed to say that on?
Yes,
say whatever you want.
You can say anything on the show.
Usually stuff like that, it comes from a place of hurt, right? Clint, was there something that hurt you?
Well, I mean, first of all, going into it, I mean, I got to give Bruce thanks for picking me for the 2006 World Cup team, which allowed me to accomplish my dream of playing for my country in a World Cup and scoring in the World Cup, and which allowed me then to get to Europe. But I guess the feeling of, I guess, a little bit of hurt, I guess it started once I got subbed in the Trinidad game in Denver. That's kind of, for me, when our relationship kind of changed a little bit. I felt like from that moment on, I was kind of seen as more of a super sub type player. And yeah, that didn't sit well with me. But like you said, I was a bastard, and that was my mentality.
Did you see him as a super sub? Was that the role that you had kind of assigned for him at that point in time?
At the end of his career, certainly not in his prime. He was one of the great U.S. players and a goal scorer. You never take those guys off the field. And you know, Clint could score goals, and he would compete. You know, a lot of American players don't step on the field and have an attitude that you need to have against the great teams. And by that, I'm talking about if we're playing, you know, the big boys, the top teams in Europe or South America, not in CONCACAF. And Clint never shied away in any competition we had. And that was, in my view, a tremendous asset to have in a player. I mean, obviously, I was, in terms of age, I was towards the end of my career, but then we go down to Trinidad, and then with some of the decisions that were made, I'm not saying that I should have been starting, but, you know, having Bobby Wood up top with Josie and then Christian being in that attacking role, there really wasn't that much defending in a game where you needed to get
get a result, get a draw at least to get out of that group. And then the conversation after the game, you brought me on at halftime. I hit the post, you know, did what I could do, and then saying that you came up to me and said, "Hey, I appreciate you giving your all." And I was like, "Well, fuck yeah, that's what I always fucking do. That doesn't change. I mean, I don't come back from 2 hard procedures to fuck around. I want to be here. I want to win. I want us to be successful." Obviously, a player is going to see it through a different lens than a coach would see that. And you know, I'm the type of person. Anything that I would say not to your face, I'm gonna say to your face. So those are things that I've said on camera.
Yeah. Do you remember the airplane ride we had together, sitting next to each other?
After Panama.
Well, I thought that was outstanding. It's the first time I ever really got to know you. It was great. And there was always a little bit of a distance between you and I, and probably coaches, that's probably the way you are. And what we're seeing here is the challenge that coaches have, especially with elite players. You know, when I hear coaches talking about all their tactics, this and that, or whatever, you know, anyone can figure out how to put 11 players on the field. But the psychological part and how you deal with your players is critically important. Now, I'm not claiming I always do things right, but I've had a record of success at every level, and part of it is because I think I know how to deal with the players. And we see in this situation, he doesn't believe I got it right, and I understand that. But that's the challenge. You don't want to hurt anybody, because the guys that win the games are the players, not the coaches. You know, I'm very conscious of that fact, that I'm not winning any soccer games. They're winning them. So I got to get those guys right. They've got to be right mentally and physically. You know, and you get them right, you got a chance to be successful. But it troubles me, because I have the greatest respect for these guys. You know, so if you're steering them in the wrong direction, you're hurting them. You know, you feel that.
Who is the most coachable of the big names that you've coached?
Well, I know he's going to be on your show one day. Brian McBride, beautiful.
Okay. Beautiful.
Ernie Stewart, great guys. With the Galaxy, Robbie Keane was great. You know, I used to tell Robbie Keane and Beckham, take the day off. You know, you don't need to be. Nope, they're out there training. You know, giving everything. Landon, I could have given a 30-day. He'd take a 30-day vacation. No problem. The issue with Landon was getting him on the field. The issue with Keane and Beckham was getting him off the field. You know, so everyone's different. You know, and but you know, at the end of the day, they're all good qualities in everybody. And you know, Clint was a tough character. You know.
How so?
You know, I think half the time you'd look at me like you wanted to kick my ass.
He looked at the same way.
Hey, the thing was, man, I'm gonna be real with you. You bring me into camp, and then I wouldn't make the roster, and I'd be like, fuck, dude. Like, every time, I just felt like I wasn't in your plans, or, you know, and then I hear, like, oh, he's a player that likes to just try shit and stuff like that. So it's like.
Which I thought that's a great quality.
But it's
that's saying this guy has the balls to go on the field and fucking play and do it.
I respect that, but I just feel like and Thomas Strong the same way, like you felt that, you know, I had quality and balls to like go out there and play, but like I didn't play. I was on the bench, or I wasn't in the.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a whole understanding of your career with me and how things evolved.
Yeah.
I apologize. I do know that. Early on in your career, I was going to bring you in camp, and you had a run in New England, and they asked me not to bring you into camp because I'd be showing them up.
Well, that was already after that January camp that things were going well, and that was in a World Cup year versus that was in 2006, and then something happened with me and a player with the Revolution, and then I didn't get called in. It was a Germany friendly away in Germany that I didn't go to.
Like a fight?
So it almost messed up, I guess, me not making the team. You know what I mean? Because that that happened in a World Cup.
So there are a lot of issues going on with these things that you sometimes don't realize.
No,
you know?
I mean, it is what it is.
But you know, I would say this: that you should be at fault about. You should have said something. What am I going to do? Cut your head off? say, you know, I got to, you know, if you have an issue, you should say something. Because I always thought that I'd try to keep an open dialogue with the players. And I'd say, if there's an issue, you got to talk to me about it.
No, I hear that. I mean, you
Took
know,
us about
I felt like
6 years before we spoke a sentence.
I feel like I wore my emotions on my sleeve. Like you knew where I stood.
Yeah.
Then you had your sports psychologist who I talked to. You know what I mean? He knew how I was feeling.
Confidential, though.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, like we had good times and our paths crossed at, like you didn't have me in my prime. It was at the beginning and the end.
Was it in part that you felt like Bruce was a Landon guy? Was that part?
Yeah, I think I felt that way. And that could have been insecurity. That could have been what I needed to motivate myself to be like, oh, I'm going to show everybody. I'm going to show them.
Can I ask a question just out of interest, because I don't know how this goes. You mentioned the psychologist.
Yeah.
Does a psychologist feed back to the coach?
Yeah.
Hey, so they're allowed to do that because what you said
Tom
about, you know.
Parent, right? Yeah, Tom was a friend of mine. You know.
But confidentiality is something I would have expected to apply as well in that it doesn't.
Well, we're not talking about, you know, medical issues or anything. We're talking, you know, about the things you need to do to help integrate the player into the team or make them better, whatever, you know. I don't think we ever, you know, shared things that were privileged between the player and the psychologist. You know, the players knew what was going on, and you know they would talk to the team as well. So,
did you feel comfortable speaking to a psychologist?
Yeah, I mean, when things are going good, obviously when things ain't going good, it's like, I don't have anything good to say today. You need to talk to somebody else, type of deal.
It's when things aren't going good is when you should
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like.
But we didn't do that much of it, but we, you know.
How did you feel about his Landon train of thought? Did you consider yourself a Landon guy?
A Landon guy? I had the greatest respect for Landon. I brought him in at 17, 18 years to the national team. His first game was in LA against Mexico in a friendly at the LA Coliseum in front of like 90,000. He scored a goal. And when I first met Landon, I was coaching DC United, and we went down to Bradenton for a preseason camp, and Landon was a complete asshole. Talking shit and everything on the field to Echeverry was going to kill him. But he was terrific, and Beasley was playing. And I saw those guys, I said, wow, these guys got a future. And, you know, I brought him in, I got to know him. You know, you guys know, Landon's a great guy. If he had the edge that he had, Landon would have been unbelievable. Not that he wasn't. He was a great player, but he didn't have the fire that Clint brought. Mm. But am I a Landon guy? I'm everybody's guy, you know.
Which role did you enjoy more, national team manager or club team manager?
They're two different jobs, and I'll tell you my experience last year in New England is one of the best teams I've ever coached. Just a great group of guys. Clearly, a highlight, I would say, in my career, if I want to state it like that, had to be the 2002 World Cup. The way those guys played. And I could not have been more proud of the team after the game against Germany. We lost in the quarterfinals.
Going into that tournament, right? So you know your players, you know the personnel, you know the potential of that group. Did you see that coming? Knowing what your group looked like first and foremost.
We're opening up with Portugal.
Right.
Number 3 in the world, Luis Figo, World Player of the Year. I think it was the year before. So, start of the second half, Figo standing next to me on the touchline, and he'd played the first half against Frankie, and Frankie was a handful. He was a great defender. And Figo's saying to me, that guy was pretty good. And I said to him, well, wait until you see this guy, the big cat, Tony Santa, who just ate everyone alive in the World Cup. It was great. So, you know, it was a great win. We clearly didn't, no one in the world expected us to beat Portugal.
If you had to pick one moment from that World Cup, what would it be?
I think it was us sitting in the bus after the Mexico game, with Mexico right next to us. And there
bus pulled up alongside
there
yours?
was 2 buses right next to, and the 2 countries hated each other. And looking at those guys, we're looking at through our window, they're looking at theirs, and we're looking at them. And they got their asses kicked.
So looking at that 2002 World Cup team, which inspired a whole generation, my generation, generations that came after me, but you go to 2006, and it felt like, man, this is a U.S. team that can go far. It's not a surprise anymore if they're 0-2. What would you change?
We were ranked probably 4th in the country, in the world, and which was a bunch of.
4th? Did you say 4th?
Yeah.
4th in the
Damn,
2000, yeah, and
Top
which is a
5?
bunch of baloney.
What was England that year?
I don't think you guys qualify. I don't know.
Hey.
No, we breezed through qualifying for 2006, but before every game, I did a club level, national team level. I look at the other team, who their first 11 is, and I look at the matchups. We opened with the Czech Republic, and we looked at the matchups, and I thought they were better than us in all 11 positions. We kind of knew going in, so we're saying, can we steal a game?
But wouldn't the Portugal experience change that?
No, we knew we could beat Portugal. As a coaching staff, we kind of knew. We said, can we steal a point against the Czech Republic? Then we got Italy next. Can we be alive going into game 3? That was the strategy. And getting the point against Italy, we were alive. We had to beat Ghana. And we made that, I talked to you guys
One
about
of the
that.
only teams to get a point against them, right?
Yeah. And we had to just beat Ghana. And we were positioned to beat them. You scored a great goal. And we should have gone in 1-1 at halftime, and we made that stupid play. One of the dumbest plays I've ever seen on a soccer field, to concede a penalty kick right at the
Whose
death.
fault was that?
Well, Boca
him out.
Negra.
Look at this guy.
Boca Negra
Look at this
stretched
guy,
himself
man.
out to save a ball going over the end line. Floats it in the air in the penalty area, and Gooch pushes a guy, which to this day, I was busting Gooch about it last year, actually. To this day, he says, I didn't foul the guy. They
Who
called the
needs
penalty
enemies when
kick.
you got friends like Charlie?
I mean,
He likes to stir the pot a little.
Gooch is a beast. If he does this, you're going over, So, and then we're down 2-1 at half, and Ghana parked the bus, and we were going home.
In retrospect, would you change anything if you could go back?
That team wasn't as good as 2002. They weren't.
So with all the success you had, like domestically and then with the national teams as well, did you ever want to go to Europe and coach?
I had an offer after the 2006 World Cup to go to Denmark, and I turned it down. I was just too tired. We're done the World Cup in July, and they want me there the next week, and I didn't do it. And I ended up going with Red Bull, which was a mistake. But
Do you regret not going to Denmark?
yeah, I do. I may even still do that now. If I have a chance in Europe, I would consider going. There's a possibility I have. I don't know if it'll develop, but I probably should have done that. Look back, but.
Which leads us to you wanting to get back into coaching. What's the time frame on that? Are you looking at ASAP? That's how quickly you want to be back in the game?
Tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I'd be interested. I coached 50 years straight. I've actually enjoyed this break.
Wow.
It's been fun.
Why would you just want to just chill, go golfing, relax, spend time with family? Do you just feel like
that's what I'm doing, and I've enjoyed that part.
are you tired
Would
of
you
it
miss
now?
the day-to-day
You miss the grind?
Maybe not, but
Miss
here's
dealing with players like me? How did you get into coaching in college? Was soccer what you wanted to coach?
I graduated Cornell in May of, well, you guys weren't even born then, May of 1973. And I was the #1 pick in the National Lacrosse League draft. And then the following year, I ended up going in Montreal and playing in the professional league with the Montreal team, Montreal Québécois. Things went well. I had a good year. 45 goals, 46 assists. Third in the team. Our team was good. But I
don't see you being light on your feet. You're athletic.
I'd run up your ass.
Let him know. Let him know, bro.
He must have been drinking.
I would have kicked your ass up and down the field. You shoot your mouth up. I would have bitch slapped you so quick.
Oh, hell.
So listen.
Let me get on my mud boots, man. It's getting thick in here, bro.
He's going to kick my ass right after we get off camera. But the reason I ended up getting in coaching was every team I played unfolded. And I said, I just can't keep doing this, you know? And so I got into coaching, but I was blessed with the fact that I played for really great coaches. I really did. And I used a lot of what I learned from them. And I'm a big believer that if you want to be a soccer coach, you don't learn all your skills just in watching soccer, football, however you want to call it. Other sports, I think the relationship between soccer and basketball, soccer and lacrosse, very similar. There's a lot of strategies, and so I'd become a student of sport. And the different things I learned from different sports, I applied soccer. And everyone used to look at me and say, you're crazy. You're looking at us. And then today now you see that the respect that our sport has around the world, but especially in this country, that they share a lot of philosophies and tactics in all sports.
You know, when you talk about wanting to get back into the game in terms of coaching as soon as possible tomorrow, if it's out there, it sounds like you've had at least one kind of concrete conversation that could potentially lead somewhere. Have you had multiple conversations?
I've had conversations. There was a little miscommunication, I think, in the league about my status. I was cleared in December, and no one knew that.
Well, the reports that were out there say it was April that you were cleared to be back.
Yes.
That's incorrect.
That's incorrect.
Why do you have you in that time then been pursuing already, or you think that it was just the miscommunication meant that people weren't open to having those conversations with you?
I did talk to a couple of teams, and I think some information wasn't communicated properly, but we'll leave it at that. I would say that the only thing I'd say about my time in New England and the suspension and all, I'm really proud of what I did there. The progress we made on and off the field during my tenure was really very good.
Shield.
Won the Supporters Shield.
Best regular season record of all time.
Created a pretty good following, the fan base, and the players were great. I mean, if anything I miss those players, because the work with them every day was really rewarding.
It seems like the relationship with the players was really good, because one of the reports I was reading before we spoke to you was about how when you did get suspended, because the players didn't have clarity about why that was, they chose to strike. They chose not to train, I guess, in as a show of solidarity.
Well, I wasn't there, so I can't tell you, but and I have had no communication with the upper echelon of people there since I left at the end of July.
Is it very bad terms? Is that what that is indicative of? We left things.
Since I had no communication with anybody, I don't, we had a great environment every day when I was there. I enjoyed it. So.
Do you think you'll ever share? Because it's always been kind of like secretive to some extent, right? What happened? What led to the suspension? Do you think you'll ever share that?
If there's a time where I can legally do that, I would do it.
That's not this time.
I would welcome that.
Okay.
Are you hurt? Are you hurt though emotionally? Because, I talked to the players, I've talked to the fans. Like
I think the experience was hurtful.
Can I ask a question about coming back to training? Is part of that kind of feeling like, because the guys are saying, are you 72 years old? Is that right?
Yes.
The guys are saying, why don't you just chill, enjoy yourself, play golf? Is part of it? No. I need a different ending here. Is that part of it, or not at all?
That plays a role.
Okay.
I think if that's the ending, that's a slap in the face.
If you compare the feeling of the Revs, post-Revs, and post-Trinidad after the 2018 World Cup qualifying, which for you is a more difficult?
I
That's actually a
think
good question, Charlie.
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't
We don't
I
get
like
that
that
often from
question,
I didn't
too.
know you could think like that.
I think if you're really a competitive person, anytime you don't experience success, it's troubling. And at the same time, I would be an absolute pig to think that my situation's worse than anyone else. I've experienced so much success that I have to balance things out.
So
You can't think that every year is your year.
what would be your ideal ending?
My ideal ending? My ideal ending would have been taking the U.S. to the 2018 World Cup.
And you would have retired after that?
Likely.
But because of 2018, is that what fueled you to get back into coaching? Because you're like, I'm not ending with that.
Not really, because I really wasn't interested in taking that job. I really wasn't, and I finally did in the end. They recruited me and told me some things that maybe didn't happen, but I did it, and for whatever reason, I got in. It was challenging, and we made progress.
Given how it ended with the Revs, we obviously can't really talk about why you're not there anymore, but do you say, man, I would have done something different to not be in that situation? Do you take any responsibility for what happened?
Yeah, you have to take responsibility for it. But I think I have to be reserved in what I can say. But I'll just say yes to your question. Yeah, but I can't go into any detail on that.
One of the things that we wanted to ask you about is the kind of the media storm that surrounded 2017 and not qualifying for 2018. You personally, because that was personal disappointment for you as well. It's not just for the nation. It's not just for the players, right? That's massively on your shoulders. How hard was that time for you?
It was hard. I did that knowing that it was going to be challenging because we started qualifying with 2 losses, so we were behind the 8 ball, and I knew it was. And when I was hired, I told the guys, this is going to come down to the last game, and ironically, it came down to the last game, and the failure to me was obviously shocking, disappointing. I remember after the game in the hotel, a U.S. soccer official came up to me and said, we got to start planning for games in the spring. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, we have these days. I said, I'm not going to be here. I failed. My job was to get this team to the World Cup, and I failed. And then I resigned a couple days later.
Were you prepared for what the media reaction was to that moment?
To be honest, I don't pay attention to the media.
That must have been hard not to pay attention to that media reaction, no? It was loud.
Even if you went out to the grocery store or a restaurant where people like, Bruce, tough one.
I really didn't get,
We definitely got booed every game that we played after that.
I think I did the best job I could do, and we fell short. And you take the responsibility and you move on. What more can you say, But I'll be honest with you, I did not follow the media a whole lot. My whole career, I've never watched the last game of the season I've coached in. And that includes winning a lot of championships and stuff.
Why is that?
Yeah, why is
It's
that?
over. You're putting so much time and effort. You're beat up, and it's done.
Yeah.
You're done. You got to get away from it. So I've never seen the game against Trinidad.
That 2014
I've never
one
seen
hurt.
it
You've
either.
hold up, you've never watched the game against Trinidad, Pat?
No, I saw the game. I was right there. I didn't need to look at film.
Do you remember what Bruce said in the locker room after that loss against Trinidad and Tobago?
I mean, I don't really remember, but I can relate with them saying about it's tough to watch games back. You put everything you had into it, and that's that. But, I mean, what can you say?
Do you remember what you said,
It was
Bruce?
done.
I thanked the guys. I thanked him, and I thanked every player. I went to every player after the game, and thanked them for every. Because I'll tell you, the program, those guys in the national team in that year, busted their tails. They were behind the 8 ball. We had to try to reinvent some things, and they gave everything they can. They didn't have a bad year, but that last game we had to get a result, and we didn't. And there was a lot of, there's a lot of side issues too. If they had done things right, one of the teams that in one of the games it was
dependent on another result. Yeah.
And there was a goal that was
I think it
wasn't scored that they counted, or in one of the games.
Panama game.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot of crap going on as well, which is typical of CONCACAF. But the guys gave a great effort, and on that day, some guys didn't play well. There's no question about that.
After a moment like that, sorry, do you like? I know you said you don't watch the game back, and then obviously you step away from the team. Do you keep in touch with some of the guys and like reach out and like communicate with them to, I don't know, not apologize, but like?
There's still guys with New England that stay in touch with me. Yeah. With the national team, especially when we picked rosters, I'd get input from the whole staff, and I knew who we should keep on the roster, but I'd hear from everybody, and we'd go over positions and names, and there was some that I didn't even need to give my opinion, because we'd have a vote. There's one player I remember to this day holds it against me for not selecting him to the World Cup, and I've never told him. Well, we had 7 people deciding, and the vote was 6-0 against you, so I didn't have to vote.
I have an idea who that is.
So it wasn't.
In that 2021.
Who is it then?
It's either Taylor Twellman or, Taylor Twellman.
I can't comment.
We had Eric Ronaldo do an episode just before you were here. And one of the concepts he was talking about was the fact that there is an idea out there that for the U.S. men's national team to succeed, they need an American coach. Do you believe that? Do you think you need an American coach in charge of the U.S. men's national team?
They need a coach who can relate to them.
Does that have to be American for that to be possible?
No, it has to be a coach who can relate to them. It could be, you should speak English, starting point. We've had a coach that didn't speak English, but if you look around the world, if I'm not mistaken, most of the leading countries have a coach from that country.
Who do you think are the best American coaches right now?
The best American coaches right now? That's a good question. I'm trying to... I think in the league, in particular, I think Jim Curtin does a very good job in Philadelphia. Pat Noonan's an up-and-coming coach. He's obviously got a way to go.
What about Jesse?
Jesse Marshall's a good coach. He's had his ups and downs in the coaching ranks, but that's all part of it as well. Gregg continues to grow as a coach.
I was going to say, do you measure Jesse differently because he decided to go to Europe? Like, does that weigh into how you assess him as a coach?
I give him a lot of credit for his move. He's living in Italy now, too.
Yeah.
And, really interesting.
And he's on. He has a.
He might work for the UN
podcast if you can check it out.
I think he's going to work.
You plugging it for him?
I got you, bro.
He'll probably end up being our UN ambassador. All the stuff he's doing.
How did you feel about the decision to re-elect Gregg? Did that surprise you?
It did surprise me because I think it was awkward the way they did it.
Awkward in what sense?
They kind of left him hanging.
Why take it away and then give it back?
Yeah, they left him hanging, I think. I think that was awkward. They had a change in their leadership, too. There was a whole lot of changes going on.
But knowing the importance of the relationship between players and manager, or players and coach, right? I guess one of the things that maybe we as a group from the outside looking in looked on that and kind of thought, well, can Gregg ever have the trust of the team again after how things transpired with the press conference that was given after the World Cup, where he talked openly about some of the situation with Gio? Like, did you think that was a breach of trust as a coach?
Well, I think these guys would be better suited to answer that question, because it's the players that, how they think.
The way I'd answer it, what happens in-house stays in-house.
Yeah.
You know, you got to have some level of trust there.
I think Gregg has a good relationship with the players. You know,
That's the reason he got the job.
Yeah.
I think is the relationship.
With the players.
But I was curious what you thought, given you coach Claudio, you coach Gregg, how that all transpired, how ugly that got.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even begin to understand that. I really can't. You know.
Like, were you just shocked by that? Like, that's not something you ever saw coming.
I think, you know, classic youth sports, you see the parents get involved and all of that. You would never think that happens at the professional level. You know, there are certainly grudges, obviously. It's human nature and all, but it doesn't get out like that.
When you took over the team after Jurgen, did you kind of feel like there had been like a generational gap with terms of us not making Olympics? What was the good talent that was coming up? It seemed like we were just kind of putting a Band-Aid over the situation if we'd have qualified.
Well, internally, from day one, I told the staff, I said, if we get through this qualifying in the World Cup, we're going to have to change half this roster. We were just hanging on for life.
So if you felt like that, right, like almost like you were handicapped walking into it, is it just that you have so much pride in coaching the country?
Yeah.
That's why you took the role?
Never turned that down. That was the challenge. You know, they'd lost the first 2 games. So we went through 2017. We really didn't have much of a margin for error. And we did well until the last game. We felt, and
there was only one bad game.
What?
Costa Rica and New York. That was a home game
which
we lost.
Which ridiculous. And it was a time where the U.S. was still putting games in venues that they shouldn't be playing. And I didn't want to go. I tried to get us out of that game in New Jersey. I wanted to play elsewhere, and they didn't do it. You don't play Costa Rica in New York. Put them in Columbus.
Colorado.
Put them in Birmingham, Alabama.
Somewhere where you have a chance of having a home crowd.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree.
And then going into the situation, we went into Trinidad.
Our media didn't help us with doing
the digital staff.
Jumping over the water.
I didn't even know about it.
What's this? What's the story?
They gave ammo to Trinidad because we're basically...
They embarrassed Trinidad
Yeah.
with different social media. Because
This is prior to the game.
Yes.
prior to
The pitch had like a bunch of water and stuff. Players are like...
And Trinidad,
Players are getting carried
Trinidad
because
went
when the
from,
shoes
you
get
know, who
wet.
the hell cares, last game, and we get out of here. They're fired up the players.
So you have shaped a lot of people in the soccer community in this country, right? Influence shaped. When you talk about legacy, how do you want to be remembered by players, colleagues, fans?
I did my best. What more can I say? You know, legacies or whatever you want to call them. You know, the record speaks for itself, but that's not. I'd like to think that you know the record is one thing. It's how you treat people is important. How you build teams. When I took over the national team program at the end of 1998, that was a wounded program, and then I'm disappointed that I couldn't do it in 2018, because it was the same thing. I knew what the challenge was, but I said, you know, you can't turn it down.
I feel like you're really well positioned to give your take on this. Do you feel like us as a country, this sport in this country, where are we? Are we heading in the right direction? Is it like, what do you feel like it's
We are definitely making progress. And one way I measure that is that when I talk to professional coaches and players in other sports, they think the world of soccer now. 30 years ago, they used to laugh about it. 34, and it's well respected by everyone now. And you know, our young players are being recruited by, you know, some of the top leagues in the world now.
Does that mean that you consider this generation more gifted, that you consider this a better generation?
I think there are more quality players now than ever before. You need those players with his attitude.
Do we have that?
Not yet. We need more. I'm trying to say the right word.
Try shit.
What?
Like to try shit.
Well,
No, the bastard part.
we need guys that can compete, and they're fighting for 90 minutes on the field. We need some tougher guys.
So better quality players, yes. Better team currently, or would you pick a previous generation?
Well, they wouldn't beat the 2002 team, the current team. I'm telling you that now, but they can. I mean, for this next World Cup, if I'm not mistaken, we will have a number of players that have already played in the World Cup playing. So they'll have that experience, plus they're playing at home. So, and they're a seeded team. They're going to have a very good draw. They're going to advance into the round of 16. And now can they win a couple of games then?
How do you compare Christian to Landon?
Christian, I think, is potentially a better player than Landon. He isn't yet, but potentially he should be. And he's shown it now in Italy. But
when you say potentially, do you mean he's not reached that yet, or you just
not
mean...
yet? Not yet. He has to. He has to put some years together of quality. But he's getting there. No question about that.
Who do you consider the best U.S. men's national team player of all time?
That's a tough.
Swing for it.
That's a tough question to answer.
Tough because Clint's sitting here?
No, not because Clint's sitting here. Because that wouldn't be my answer.
So who's your Mount Rushmore then?
Top 5? 4? Mount Rushmore is 4? I should know that.
4 in your mind, who you've played, who you coached.
Well, I know Landon and Christian would be in there.
Damn, I didn't even make top 4? Shit.
I just named 2.
Yeah, but I read between the lines.
You can't read between the lines. I saw your college transcript. I know you can't read. You can't read between the lines.
You ain't lying. I almost did fell out.
I mean, that's automatic. In your group, So, if you ask me now how to pick a starting 11, Friedel would be my goalkeeper. My right back would be Tony Santa. Eddie Pope would be a center back. McBride would be in there. Christian would be in there. Clint would be in there. Beasley might be in there. Who's the best left back? I don't know. Who's the partner for Eddie Pope at center back?
So where's Landon and where's Clint?
I don't know. You didn't ask that question. No, you throw them up there. They'll figure it out.
But you don't have many of the current generation in there. So far, you've only named Christian.
Right. The current generation. The best player is Christian. I think this McKennie's shown quality.
Gio?
Gio's a good player, but he hasn't. He has to prove something. He doesn't play at the club level. He still doesn't have much of a resume at the international level. I don't know how you could include him. I mean, there's no reason to believe he won't get there, right?
When people look at you, they think of a manager who can manage anyone, right? What is the key or what is the trick to managing some of these bigger personas? Because we see coaches that can manage young players, but as soon as they manage egos, Beckham.
I don't think he can write a book on that, but I think you got to get to know them. So we've already discussed today that our relationship wasn't complete. And the reason it wasn't
national
complete...
team said it, though. We're hardly ever around.
No, but it's also because we didn't connect, and you got to connect somehow. And everyone's different. How you connect with somebody, it's different, all three of you guys. And
how do you
got
know
to
when you connect?
What?
How do you know when you connect? What's that moment?
Well, I try to figure out what guys are about and try to develop a relationship. I visit players in the different countries they play in, and you develop a relationship. And if if they have confidence in you and respect, then they're going to be comfortable enough to perform the way they're supposed to perform. And when you tell them something that might not please them, they'll bite their tongue and deal with it. And that's all part of it. We all got to give a little bit for the betterment of the team.
To go with that, I know you're a manager who gives complete freedom, right? You say, I trust you guys, just don't double cross me, right?
I wouldn't
Not double cross me, but
like
don't alienate my trust. How do you mitigate?
Talking about freedom on the field or
No,
off
off
the field?
Pitch, off the field.
Like go out, have a dinner on your own?
But then not show up.
You guys
to
are
training.
adults. I'm not telling you.
But how do you handle those situations when players alienate that trust?
Talk to them about it. The only rule I ever have, and you guys probably know that, my rule was be on time. That's the rule. All the other stuff, I don't want to be sitting in a hotel lobby.
How big was the fine for not being on time?
I don't think I've ever fined anyone.
No?
No.
My brother was in preseason with the Galaxy in 2011, 12, and he told me, he's in preseason excited, Landon, and Beckham came in late. And Bruce was in the front, and he started to give David shit. He said, hey, and he said, David looked at you, he goes, tried managing 3 kids. Like, I just try and do my best to get here or something. And he just said you had a great relationship with him where, the guys knew that you had to manage him a little bit different. And
So say if you're going to fine Beckham, what are you going to fine him?
What are you thinking now going into the summer? Obviously, the Copa America coming up. What's your expectation for this team? Do you set an expectation of this has to be our minimum of where we get to? How do you approach those kind of tournaments? What's your thinking around?
I think at a minimum, they have to get into the quarterfinals, which they should, right? They're in group play with Panama and Bolivia and Uruguay. So they should get to the quarterfinals.
so, to get out of the group, they're in the quarterfinals. And that'd be most likely against Brazil or Colombia.
Well, that's not good. Brazil would not be good.
If you finish second, you're most likely playing Brazil. If you finish first, and you're playing Colombia.
So, if they played Brazil and they played well and lost to them in the quarterfinals, it's a good experience for the team. Those are the games they need to get ready for the World Cup. And then the World Cup, they should get out of group play. No question about that. Clearly, for the 2026 World Cup, we have to get out of group play. And, I'd like to see us get into the quarterfinals. That means we need to win in the round of 16.
Ronaldo came on here and said the goal should be to win and not setting the bar at quarterfinals or,
Well, my guess is they're not going to win the World Cup. Right? Take it for what it's worth. And that's not bad. We're going to win a World Cup. We're going to win a World Cup.
Why is your guess then that it doesn't happen in 2026 when it's at home and you have?
Well, I think this current team has not had enough good games to measure themselves against the top teams in the world. That's my feeling right now. Maybe things change over the next 2 years.
Can you make up on that? I was going to say, does it have to have already happened, or can you make good on that?
Copa America is a starting point. Advance, play against quality teams, get results, or play well and learn from it, and then be ready in 2025, get good games at home, even though they're friendlies, to prepare yourself for the World Cup. And, the World Cup, they're going to be games in that World Cup that are going to be 5-6-0 because they're going to 48 teams. So, it's going to be bizarre.
Do you feel the same as Bruce in terms of Copa America? Hey, get into the quarterfinals. If you come up against a Brazil and you play well but you lose, then we're okay with that.
I mean, I'm always type of shoot for the stars type of deal. Like, break the records, do more than what's been done before you.
I agree.
You know what I mean? We've been to a semifinal. Have we been to a final of Copa America before?
No.
Semifinal, final, and then, like you said, what y'all did in 2002, quarterfinals, go further. Like, you have to be moving the bar, going further. So that's how I'm gonna, view them. I'm wishing them the best. I want them to be successful. It's only gonna grow the game here in the States. So enjoy that pressure. Enjoy being at home playing for both Copa America.
These are challenging competitions.
Yeah, it's not gonna be easy. Saying that it's not gonna be easy, but I'm rooting for them.
And a lot of things happen over the next 2 years. You could lose players, or other players blossom, emerge.
But I agree with you. The strength of schedule has not been there.
Well, I have one thing. If you could talk to Revs players that you haven't talked to, or fans that maybe haven't had a chance to hear from you, is there anything you'd want to say to them?
Well, the players know. Players know what went on, so I don't need
or just like the community in general, soccer world, United States soccer, Bruce Arena fans.
Because of legal restrictions, I can't talk.
There's not a message that you'd want to say to them, or?
Well, the message to the New England people is I miss you. I mean, the people in Boston were great to me, New England, wonderful people. The players were great, so I enjoyed my time there. I'm disappointed the way things ended and how they ended. But I don't have control of that.
But we look forward to seeing you back in the league or somewhere else, Europe, this league, this country, who knows?
I have an interest in one more challenge. And at the same time, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I feel good where I am in my life right now. I'm enjoying myself.
So you're at peace?
Yep.
And then, any interest in a golf match versus me?
Yeah, definitely taking you on.
What we playing for? What we playing for?
And I don't want to see this.
I'm gonna take all the shoes. I'm taking all your money.
With balls rolling out of your pants.
We'll see.
After you hit them in the woods.
We'll see you, sandbagger. You said you shot at 85 and you're at 15. So we'll see.
Okay. All right.
It'll be good. Be a good challenge.
I will put a lot of pressure on him mentally. I know physically he has an advantage. Bruce? Mentally, I can tear him apart.
The mental midget.
Oh man. This guy. It was up and down the field in the cross, supposedly.
He knows how to rattle your cage. Mm-hmm.
No, it's been good. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yes, man. We appreciate you.
It's
Thank
a pleasure.
You so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm stuck.
Thank you
very much. Good to meet you.
So, say hello to my boy, Thierry.
Thierry, I will do.
Thanks a lot. Enjoyed it.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this episode of Kickin' It, then don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to enjoy more raw and unfiltered content from me and the boys.